evening. We'd like to call the meeting, December 13th meeting to order of the Yakima School Board. A couple of announcements before we begin. We do have interpretation services from Andromeda Interpreting Services. If you are in person tonight and need translation, we have translation devices you can use. Please check in with Barb right here for a device. If you are tuning into live stream, there is a Spanish live streaming link to tune into these services. You can find this on the Yakima District website. We are live streaming this evening's meeting. We offer live streaming options. You can find the link on our webpage under Find It Fast or going directly to www.ysd7.org/board meetings. We do have public comment options tonight. You can sign up for public comment again with Barb prior to the you had to do prior to 3 p.m. today if you were online, or be in attendance. If you are here in person tonight, you can sign up. There's a sign up sheet at the table. If you are interested in past meetings, you can find a link on our webpage to the YSD YouTube channel to view past meetings that were recorded and posted there. And that ends the announcements. Barb, would you like to call the roll, please?
Director Navarro Jr.,
Present.
Director Rice,
Here.
President Walker.
Present. And
And-
Directors Villanueva and Beckett are out of town and excused for tonight's meeting. And now I'm pleased to welcome a student from Stanton High School. Mr. Chapman, would you like to introduce our student that's going to provide the Pledge of Allegiance? And is he also prepared to do the word of the month? All right.
May you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Giovanni. And I hate to put you on the spot, but we love to put you on the spot. So sometimes our board members like to ask a few questions about you and maybe what your plans are for the future and goals and so on. So I'll start with,
Yes.
the word. Oh, well, let's do the introduction and then we'll do the word of the month since I'm out of order anyway.
Yes. The word of the month is curious, marked by a desire to investigate and learn. The trait is critical thinker and problem solver.
Good evening, Giovanni. Thank you for being here. I don't know if this is working. Can you just you shared with me, but
Yes.
would you be willing to share with the rest of us here what your plans are after high school?
Yeah, so my plans after high school are gonna be I'm gonna be going to YBC for 2 years to earn my AA, and then I'm gonna move forward to earn my bachelor's degree for surgical nurse. So in the future, I can be a doctor. It's my goal. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Lozano, just want to thank you. Tell you that in advance, future, right? That's awesome.
Thank you so
Awesome
much.
to hear that. Do want to thank you for your time today and for your leadership. And I am faculty at YBC, so when you go to YBC in the fall, look me up at the counseling center so we can get you on that right track.
For
all
sure,
right?
definitely.
To go to med school. So nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And I would also like to thank you for being here today. I had the opportunity to visit your school about 2 weeks ago, and I'm very impressed with what's happening there and the students that are working hard. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you could join us tonight, and I wish you very well in your future endeavors. So
Yeah. Yes, the teachers at Stanton, they're very amazing. Yes.
thanks. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay for our entire meeting, but if you have homework to do or pre-meds to study, then you're also can go whenever you wish. So thanks again for coming. Next on our agenda, we have recognition of some guests this evening, some acknowledgement of accomplishments. Okay, I'm out of order here. We do have the land acknowledgement next. I'm getting ahead of myself. And we're changing the land acknowledgement tonight. We have it presented by students this evening. So that's a change for us.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Cliticat, and Yakima counties. Today, we honor the Native people who are tied to the land through history, legends, and cultures.
We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture.
It also honors the truth.
As a school district, we'll continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Thanks to our students for that contribution. It's always nice to see students presenting. And now we have recognition of some of our guests, and we have acknowledgments of some accomplishments of some of our students and their coaches. So we're going to start with Director Navarro, has some fall sports announcements to make.
Yes, good evening. It's indeed an honor to recognize our student athletes. And this evening I will be recognizing or honoring two. The first from Davis High School for the WIAA Cross Country Ambulatory Division, placing third is Julian Rivera. Are you here today, Julian? All right, how about an applause? We'll ask that you come and maybe around the horseshoe, and we have a certificate we want to provide to you or to present to you, and we want to shake your hand. Oh, there we go. Yeah, right here. And also as head coach is Mr. Jose Garcia. From Eisenhower High School and for WIAA Cross Country Ambulatory Division, placing second is Javier Benito Cabrera. And also we do have head coach, Mr. Phil English. I'd like to give Mr. English a few moments. He can talk to us about the experience this year. Mr. English.
Yeah, really. I thought you were blocking me off there for a while. I said, God, you didn't even ask me permission about changing the whole setup there. Yeah. Well, thanks for honoring Javi here. Javi is the happiest cross-country runner I've ever come across. Doesn't matter what the workout is, how difficult it is, he's incredibly motivated, and he just had some great success. I would like to bring two other coaches up here, and they're the ones that really got him involved in running in the first place. They're involved in the special education program at Eisenhower High School. That's Anthony Stewart and Tracy Hoyt. So they know Anthony better than or Javier probably better than I do. And of course, the person that works with him on a one-to-one, Parker Jones, couldn't make it here tonight. But to give you an idea in terms of how much he's improved in one season, so Javi's first race is 26 minutes. That doesn't mean much to you. It is if you have to run it. Superintendent Green, are you paying attention? Yeah, okay. So that's quite a long ways, but by the end of the season, he cut it down all the way to 22 minutes. That's a huge accomplishment, and he's just a delight to coach. And we think we have another year with him, so we're pretty excited about that. So Javier, thanks very much for participating, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody Merry Christmas. Oh yeah, well, happy holidays. Listen, there's only so many new tricks you're going to teach me at my age. So, well, anyway, it's, best wishes for the season. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. English. Julian, did you want to say a few words? Julian? Did you want to say a few words? Okay, come on. Tell us about your experience, and then we'd love to hear about that.
How was it at the state level? How did you enjoy that experience?
Yes.
Yeah?
I'm so proud of Davis High School. I was to be part of a student of Davis High School. I'm thankful for Mr. Garcia for how to be a part of the team. To work for the team, for me. And thank you so much.
Next up, we have 4 awards. I'll be presenting 2 of them, and Director Rice will present the other 2. The Big Nine announces the Fall NECA IBEW Award winners, and these are awards sponsored by the National Electrical Contractors Association and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, which are 2 organizations that train electricians for the future. The NECA encourages all high school students to explore with their high school counselors a career in the electrical construction industry, which provides salary levels that are above average in careers that last a lifetime. The following Yakima School District students were recognized for demonstrating superior balance in academics, athletics, and community involvement. So the first award goes to Shayla Allen Greggs, who played volleyball at Davis High School. And I believe Shayla's not here tonight, but is there a family member here? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, she's involved in basketball tonight, so she couldn't be here. We also have, playing football at Davis High School, Morgan Rodriguez. Is Morgan here?
He's not here, but I'm here.
Congratulations first on Morgan's behalf. And if you'd like to say a few words about Morgan, we'd be happy to hear what you have to say. Well, that's your last opportunity.
students are both from Eisenhower High School. Leslie Soto plays soccer for Eisenhower. Is Leslie here? Okay. And the final recipient tonight is Mark Stevens, who plays football for Eisenhower. Is Mark here? Congratulations, Mark. Good job.
Before our athletes go home, we'd like to take a photo in the back of the room, please. So there's someone back there to help you. Congratulations again to all our athletes. You represent our district very well.
And if the coaches would like to join in the picture, I'm sure the kids would enjoy having you there. Or not.
Because we have a board member on call tonight, we're going to continue with the agenda in hopes that we get completely through it. We're also going to shift a couple things in the agenda. We're going to shift to section C, and that would be the consent agenda. The consent agenda enables the board of directors to efficiently deal with matters that have been delegated to the superintendent, but by law must be approved by the board. Items on the consent agenda are voted upon as one block and approved with one vote. Any board member has the right to remove any item from the consent agenda. And so the consent agenda includes minutes, approval of warrants for November, personnel actions, and budget status reports. And in the category of warrants are included warrants for the general fund, ASB warrants, capital projects, payroll, and that's it. So, do I hear from the board any item in the consent agenda that you would like to have removed for further consideration? Hearing none, do I hear a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda for approval as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would you like to call roll, Barb?
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Next on the agenda are a number of approvals for expenditures. And the first one, we'll start with the contract with Kinderhofen. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Board President Walker, members of the board. This is a renewal of an existing contract, and this is a partnership in order to provide nursing services for our students with special needs as required by their individualized education plan. We're seeking that you grant approval to contract and continue that partnership in the amount of $612,000 for this school year. Happy to answer any questions.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approve for renewal the contract with Kinderhaven Partners, LLC, for the 2022-23 school year in the amount of $612,000.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to renew the contract with Kinderhofen. Shall we call roll? Or can with three of us, can we just approve by voice vote?
You can.
Let's just, All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next up, we have approval of the superintendent to travel to 2 upcoming events in the amount of $6,157. Dr. Green.
Thank you very much, members of the board. Before making the presentation on these 2 items or the request on these 2 items, I do need to make the board aware that I'm withdrawing the request and approval that has already come forth to attend the National Superintendent's Conference in San Antonio. Oftentimes when there are conferences, we try to get ahead of the curve and make those requests early. But given the circumstances and the opportunity to attend the Heads and Principals Association in Durham, North Carolina in February and the National Migrant Conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I felt that it was over the top to attend an additional. So I am withdrawing the request that was approved earlier this year and requesting approval to go to the 2 that I mentioned for the purpose of networking, also then connecting with thought leaders, exposure to latest research and strategies, an opportunity for personal growth, as well as representing our 9.3% migrant population and the department that serves those individuals in our migrant department in Albuquerque. So the request is for those 2 conferences around the corner.
Do I hear a motion to approve the superintendent's travel?
I move that the Board of Directors approve travel for Superintendent Green to 2 upcoming events in the amount of $6,157. Those 2 events would be the Heads and Principals Association Conference in Durham, North Carolina, February 7 to 11, and the National Migrant Conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 30 to May 3, both 2003.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the superintendent's travel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have approval of the Yakima Educational Office Professionals Agreement. Mr. Marietta.
So I've been asked to give expedited report, and so here we have a 2-year agreement that has been ratified by the membership of YEOP. Do you have any questions, or is there something that I can elaborate on, or shall we? With that, I'd like to thank the members of the rank and file team of Jeanette Tejeda, Christy Calkins, Rosa Gonzalez, Candy Stubblefield, and Nikki Navarro.
Do I hear a motion to approve this? I was taking a look at the agreement, but do I hear a motion to approve this agreement?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the agreement between the Yakima Education Office Professionals and the Yakima School District as presented. You'll have to second because he has to recuse.
Oh, okay, this is one that you have to recuse yourself. Okay, I will second that motion. It has been moved and seconded to approve the YEOP agreement. Is there any further discussion or question?
Yes, I just want to notify the board that I will be recusing myself from this action.
So
Okay.
Barb, in the minutes, you'll have to note him as recused. You want to call for the vote?
Okay, any other comments or discussion from the board? Okay, it's been moved.
I'm just wondering what that does to, I know we still have a quorum, but I'm just wondering about the vote, if that's still valid, or do we want to get as many board members to vote on that as possible? Couple questions. I know we do have legal today, so we might
That would
get
be
some
a legal
advice.
question. So because one has to recuse.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think the vote can stand with just a majority of the quorum. I think it has to be a majority of the entire board.
Okay.
So I would recommend that it get put over.
Will there be implications if we don't approve this until after the first of the year?
No, there will not.
Okay.
We have a tentative agreement, and we have been honoring the agreement as if it is
Okay.
bound until something otherwise comes up. So we would continue to operate under the new and existing agreement.
Okay,
Okay, and in light of the, so we'll have to table that.
yeah, you have to move. I move that, I will remove my motion,
Second.
and you'll remove your second, and then we have to have a new motion to table
Okay.
until sometime in January. Our first meeting in January is on the 9th. You want to do it then?
Yes, might as well just table it
Okay.
to the next meeting.
All right, I move that we table the approval for the Yakima Education Office Professionals contract to our next meeting on January 9th.
Second. Any further discussion of moving it to the 9th? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, do the next two agreements, would you also need to recuse yourself on those, Raymond, the other two associations? Well, number 4, we can move ahead with. Okay, we'll go ahead with number 4 then.
So we have a one-year agreement for the principals. It's also recommended, fully ratified by their bargaining unit. I'd like to thank members of the bargaining unit, Bill Hilton, Aaron Thomas, Tori Brennan, John Gonzalez, Eric Diner, and Dave Chaplin. I failed to mention the bargaining team for the district, which was myself, Christopher Miller, and Olivia Martinez. In this particular, it's Olivia, myself, Kim Newell, Dr. Rob Darling, and Elizabeth Gonzalez. So this also comes with a recommendation.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the principals agreement?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Yakima Principals Association agreement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
We also have a third agreement, which is YEA. This is a 3-year agreement. I'd like to acknowledge President John Kavanaugh, Chief Negotiator Duff DeWitt, Michael Clark, Francis Guerrero, Jennifer Hernandez, and Kimberly Wahlberg on behalf of the district. Myself, Kim Newell, Jake Cooper, Bill Hilton, Aaron Thomas, Olivia Martinez, retired Becky Nissen, and Will Surratt, who is now with South Kitsap. So I'd like to recommend this as well. It's a 3-year agreement, and we had a very good bargain for all parties involved.
Okay.
So excited about that one.
Yeah, I need to double check though. Do you need to recuse on this one? Yeah. Because we have a employee in the family.
I move that we table the item, what is it?
YEA agreement.
B5.
Yeah.
The contract agreement with the Yakima School District and the Yakima Education Association to January 9th.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to move that to the 9th. Any just further discussion on that issue? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, I think we can move on to boilers.
Good times had by all. Because of the cost of the boilers, which come out to $268,687.97, we are requesting approval for the equipment for the facility.
First one up is for 2 boilers for Washington Middle School. Do I hear a motion to support that purchase?
I move that we approve for purchase 2 boiler replacements for Washington Middle School in the amount of $268,687.97.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve purchase of 2 boilers for Washington Middle School. Is there any further discussion on that issue?
Are they replacing boilers that are down?
No, they are 30 years old.
Oh.
So it's, we're lucky that they're not down.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And we have a similar approval to purchase 2 boilers for Franklin Middle School in the same amount.
Correct. These come in the dollar amount of $268,687.97. They are 2 boilers. They are over the $200,000 requirement to take to the board, and they too are over 30 years old. And I'd just like to make a quick plug for our maintenance department, who's been making everything work for a substantially long time.
30 years, wow.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I move that the board approve purchase for 2 boilers as a replacement for Franklin Middle School in the amount of $268,687.97.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 2 boilers for Franklin Middle School. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. I'm assuming that will be a boilerplate agreement.
That's a dad joke, right?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We have an opportunity for comments from the public. Has anyone signed in to comment?
We do have John Kavanaugh signed in to talk on agenda items.
Okay,
And so since we moved this around, that should be right now, correct?
Right.
Yes.
But I'm thinking that his agenda item got pushed to the 9th anyway.
okay. I'm obligated to go through the protocols for public comment. Members of the public are asked to sign in prior to speaking. That's been done. Please introduce yourself and state all affiliations with the district. This is a comment on agenda items, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Keep comments to 3 minutes so everyone has a chance to be heard. Speak only once to each agenda item. Refrain, please, from discussing the performance of an employee or the interpretation or application of the district's labor agreements, including grievances, and refrain from making derogatory comments about any individuals. Thank you. You have the floor.
Well, I was here to thank you for approving the contract, but we had a little snafu we have here. But I do want to thank both teams, the YEA team and the YSC bargaining team. We have been bargaining basically for 3 years. They have put an unbelievable amount of time in with the pandemic, the MOUs that we had to work through for the pandemic. And so it's been quite a process. I've been doing this for 15 years, and the last 3 have been some of the best time bargaining. I have to say, if you want to say a good time, but just a pleasure to bargain with the district's bargaining team compared to some of the teams in the past. And I think we can move forward with most of the contract and at this point, and then it will be fully approved in the January 9th meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John, for coming. I'm sorry we couldn't deliver the final approval for you tonight, but we'll see you in January. Okay, now we'll move back to section B in the agenda. Are there any reports from members of the board? I have one brief report. I had the pleasure of sitting in on a portion of our Student Advisory Council meeting the other day, and we have a new team, new members on the team, so they were doing some training of new members. And then the folks that have presented to us before, we're kind of getting to know them a little bit. We're there, of course, too. So it was really nice to see the work that they're doing. And I'm very impressed with the draft of the proposed policy on student voice that they're coming up with. So it's really nice to see the work that they're doing, how seriously they're taking it. And I think we're real blessed with some very sharp students. Moving on, we have the superintendent's update. Dr. Green.
All right, thank you. It's my pleasure to start this evening by sharing the Yakima School District's equity definition. Keep that at the forefront of our minds, which is the condition that would be achieved if one's group membership no longer predicted in a statistical sense how one fares. Equity is the outcome, not just access to opportunity. We really are working around that definition to provide that equity and opportunity and have that access not simply be a buzzword, but actually be an outcome. And I appreciate being able to daylight that on a monthly basis to the board. Moving on with the update, aside from the SSAC, the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, I'd like to start with the Partners in Education meeting that occurred. So there's been a lot happening in the last week. I know we meet pretty frequently. And I believe, President Walker, you were at that event as well. So we were able to meet with a group of business leaders, and in that session, we actually had students that were presenting on the board-sanctioned definition of student voice and sharing the work that they've done around policy and getting some feedback on their first blush of the student voice policy. So they're off and running, things are happening. The community was very excited. Community leaders in the form of business partners were excited about the opportunity to interact with our students. And we look forward to growing that meeting the next time that we reunite and having more students be a part of that. Other information to share with you is that we do have the Martin Luther King Jr. March coming. I think it's incorrectly titled as a parade, but certainly as a march. And I'd like to share that it is going to start on 5th Avenue and MLK Jr. Boulevard, which is right here on the corner over here behind our Central Services building. And it will start at 11:30 a.m. on January 16th. Again, starting the assembling at 11:30. The march itself will start at noon on January 16th. So certainly a date that we want everybody in the community to know about. At this point, I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Locke to share some information around two items, one being the Centegics, the benefit of Centegics. As the board might remember, we approved a system to activate in case of an emergency, including lockdown. So there's a report on that, as well as the Handle with Care report, which is new to the board. Will be an update on the program and how our interaction with the police partnership and notifying principals and counselors about students who have had a traumatic event at home, what those numbers look like. So I'll pass this over to Stacy Locke.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Good evening, Board of Directors and President Walker. For a change, I get an opportunity to talk about something besides COVID. And so I'm kind of excited tonight. As you remember, last year you approved the program for Centegics, which is an alert system via this badge. So it's not that sheet, Martha, it's this right here. I'm talking about this right here. This is the first thing. Yeah. No, that's the next one. That's the next one. So we have vetted this over the last couple years, and we have worked interdepartmentally with technology, safety, and security to ensure that implementation was solid and sound, and this badge actually did what it's supposed to do. So starting in October, we began the implementation process. We are about 50% done. But I'd like to share what happened last week. We were at a training at a school, And everybody that wanted to, because it's voluntary, you can pick up one of these badges after the training. This person did, and the next day at that same school, this individual was in an office and began having serious chest pains, holding her chest, bending over. Her eyes were going blurry. She couldn't see the numbers on the phone to dial. But she just picked up this badge the day before. So she reached down because she was wearing it and clicked it 3 times. And somebody, the responders, the emergency responders in the building, which are typically our administrators, our nurses, and our security. So one of them responded to the situation, looked through the window of her office and found her slumped over. Ran back, the door reached, the door was locked, ran back to the office, his office, grabbed the keys, opened the door, and she passed out. They called 911, the ambulance got there, they got her to the hospital right away. This badge is about time. It's about eliminating time to respond to a situation. In this case, this person had a heart attack, and this person is now recovering because we believe of this badge use. We're not sure how long she would have been in that office unconscious had she not alerted somebody because she couldn't get out of the chair. So already we look at the power of empowering all our employees, one, to see an emergency and be able to respond to it for their own well-being as well as the well-being of all our students in the district. These badges will work on every campus, and they will work 1,000 feet from the last beacon on the campuses. So our bus drivers were trained the other day. They're very excited to be empowered out, say over at Davis, where they line up for the transfer station, to be able to alert right away. But 98% of the time, the badge is used for medical purposes, altercations that occur. The other time, it is the active shooter piece, which we're also training on and how to use that badge. So, I mean, that to me is just really exciting. We're the first school district in the state of Washington to be using this program, and we've been very successful. So, just wanted to share that. By the way, this person is home feeling better as a result of that situation.
That's excellent news,
Yeah.
Stacy.
It's just down in Georgia where the company began developing the software. You know, they have had some similar stories across the South where they've managed to save a life as a result of it. We never thought, you know, in our wildest dreams that it would happen that quick around here. This is just another layer in our security system, in our safety system. It's not, it's in addition to, as opposed to, in replace of. And so that's really the key going around and talking to all employees. So again, very, very exciting. The Handle with Care report is what I had Barb go ahead and copy off because it is very small and I wanted you to be able to see it. And I know that Sarah Cordova, the Director of Safety and Security, did a report, I think a while back, about Handle with Care. And every morning about 6:15, she receives information from the police department, the Yakima Police Department, from the night before. And she checks and finds out how many students out of that total are in the Yakima School District, where they're at, and do their siblings attend our school also. Then what she does is she creates a list and sends that out to each individual school and notifies their counselors and administrators. And this is just a notification. It's not for them to take any action unless that student actually begins to exhibit some type of unusual behaviors. And then if that occurs, then they can bring that student in and talk to them because they know that there was some type of violent, traumatic event the night before. So when you look at these numbers, I just wanted to explain a couple things. When we looked at comparing towards the bottom last year's numbers, we started this in about September 2021. So it was fairly new, and we only had 4 schools involved in September of 21. By the end of October 21, we had added everyone else and their siblings, even if the siblings were not present during the violent event. So the data we're sharing right now as of this November 2023 is the cleanest data we've had on this program. If you look at the grand total from November 2020, 21, 22 to 22, 23, you've seen that it's almost 40% of an increase. The grand total at the bottom, the 170 versus 153, that is everyone. That includes babies, non-attendees, or other kids from schools outside our district that YPD addressed in the evening. And so we wanted to see everybody because we know it's a serious situation, and then the number of our kids that are impacted and how this is being addressed on a daily basis. We have actually extended this notification to include weekends, and so it goes out on the weekends so that if administrators are looking at their computers or checking in, they can see that these kids may have been impacted or affected Saturday and Sunday so that they can begin to address that on Monday morning. We still meet monthly with the domestic coalition that is working on these issues for the city of Yakima, and we are in a great partnership with YPD in providing this information so that we can address the needs with our students. Any questions I can answer?
Yes, can you explain that the headings in that first section there says schools, TOACIN? And there's 3 columns there on the left side.
So that's total of, what was it? Total of, there's one difference in there. What was it? No, I'll have to ask her again. I don't remember exactly. I got the YEA at the end was year, so it's a total this year on the right-hand side. But total, I would say total active, total students impacted. For example, if you're looking at Adams, total students impacted that were our students, because she'll look and see, even if there's a kid on there that is inactive, she'll dig down and see how inactive and what sibling that might be compared to or connected to. And then she'll go back and alert and talk to that family. So 28 total at Adams, 27 active, 1 inactive. Does that make sense?
I'm kind of lost, so sorry, I may have missed this, but what are those numbers? What do they mean? What are they, 27 what, or 28
20,
what?
the police reported 27 violent episodes that they interacted with, and they take the names of all the kids when they go to those calls. If there is domestic violence, they take the names of all the kids. That information is shared with us the next morning for all those calls. And what we do is disaggregate it to determine that there are kids, which ones are our kids. And so for this year, if you see, there's been, if you follow Adams across, there's been a total of 28 Adams kids. 27 of those students are currently enrolled at Adams, and there's 1 student that was at Adams but is inactive. Okay, if you continue to go across with Adams, there were 8 students during August, 10 during September, 9 during October, 1 during November, for a total of 28 for the school year.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Okay.
So the acts, you said acts of violence or violent?
Domestic violence.
Okay, so that.
And intimate partner violence.
Okay,
If
so
any
just
of that,
that's
yeah.
just the only category. There's no other. Okay.
Yeah.
No other
Because
types
the
of violence.
focus with the coalition is around domestic violence,
Okay.
because it's the #1 issue in our community.
Okay, thank you.
And domestic violence would include violence against the children, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The violence against family members, intimate partner violence, violence against the children. And then as we need to dig, if they were taken out of the home, if there's some other thing that we need to do, they're not going to be at school the next day. We have enough information so that we can support the family.
In my understanding that with the research shows that children just witnessing domestic violence, the impact is the same if they were the actual victim of the violence. So it doesn't change. So it's long-lasting effects.
I know it's one of the factors when they do ACEs.
Right.
Checking,
Yes,
right?
it is. Yes. Yes. And so one of the things that we've done, again, not only the weekend, extending through the weekend, but also, let's say there were 3 siblings at that home, but only 1 was there at the time of the incident. we make sure that our buildings know that the other two belong to that family and that there was an episode that night in case those kids also begin to exhibit some type of symptoms or concerns, trauma related. So, does that help? Are we good?
This is an incredible amount of data,
Mm-hmm.
and I really appreciate the detail that you've shared with us here, and the ability that this program provides for district personnel, teachers, principals, whoever, to have a little, kind of a little heads up that something might be going on with these kids, that just watch and be observant, be attentive to whatever they're going through.
This was originally started down in San Diego a few years ago, and we've definitely got it fine-tuned. It all depends on the relationship you have with your police department and their willingness to partner and share that information. And so obviously we do have an MOU, an agreement of understanding with them as far as what information looks like back and forth. And I will, Raymond, as a caveat, or Director Navarro, as a caveat, if let's say there was a fire or something really big that happened, we do get that report in the morning so that we do get a heads up. But it is primarily surrounding domestic violence. Any other questions I can answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. It's quite a wonderful program that we have going. It's becoming rapidly a model across the state. And the two items that were mentioned by Assistant Superintendent Locke this evening, the strategics and handle with care, both were highlighted in a recent op-ed in the Seattle Times. I think President Walker referred to that a week or so ago. So specifically talking about the alert system and then what we do to proactively support students. I also would just let the board know that Sarah Cordova has applied to present this at the June Superintendent and Principal Conference, WASA AWSP, in late June. So we'll see if it's accepted. And I think if so, it would be greatly well received by those who attend the conference. Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Sarah.
I do have a question because I think you said this is a number one issue. I forget what you said exactly. So
yes, domestic violence in our community is number one. It's not the gang activity or the other things that happen. It's number one. And so Chad Janice from the YPD went down to San Diego to research what they were doing to address the serious domestic violence they had down there. So we actually started this again, everything kind of goes back before the pandemic. Chad and I met and we started this, and we started meeting with a group of people, and now it's grown to what it is today, and it's just fabulous. And the work that she and Chad are doing on a monthly basis is incredible.
So that leads me just to kind of think about, your thoughts or the plans of the Yakima School District in terms of getting involved with this. It's a social issue, right? Are we getting involved with partners in terms of intervention, education, and so forth to decrease that? Because it's far bigger than just the school district, was what I'm hearing. So I'm just wondering about that part as well.
And that's what the Domestic Violence Coalition has members from all over the community that are involved, all kinds of different agencies that are addressing it from the entire community perspective. So if you're interested in attending that, we can give you the time and date, and you can sit in and see kind of get a perspective of everything that's going on. It's very well attended.
Yes, I would like that. Thank you.
There's a lot of people working on that. So yeah, I can forward that information to you to attend.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting just looking at the data, just, what schools have higher incidents and so forth. But you can't generalize too much from that because our kids are all kind of from all over but it's just interesting to see how that
Yeah.
that unfolds.
Yeah, the meetings are great because they go back to, they collect data also. And so they're talking about how the data has changed in our community. What are the positives, where the challenges still exist, and what do we need to do differently, as well as what do we need to keep doing. So very positive.
Are there any more questions? All right, I will continue with another recent activity that occurred, which was the CFAC. And I will turn this over to Dr. Darling to give a report on his experience, and he can also tell us what CFAC stands for, since I mess it up every time.
Capital Facilities Advisory Committee. And so last Wednesday, so the previous month, we meet the first Wednesday of every month, and the previous month, the team had, the group had narrowed down a few schools they want to do a site visit to. And a couple of them stated, well, it would be great for us to see, it's great for us to see our schools here in Yakima, but we also don't know what to compare them to. So a suggestion was brought up to visit some schools that were new. So we loaded them up on a bus. So we had 16 members on the bus, and about 6 or 7 followed in their own vehicles. We drove over across the river and saw 2 brand new schools in Sila. So we saw their kindergarten-only campus and this other elementary campus that were built in the last 3 years. And the group was very excited to be able to see all the different learning modules and the self-contained special education classes that were attached to ADA-compliant playgrounds specifically for those classrooms, and ask questions the principals and the superintendent there. And then I had the experience of designing both of those buildings before I left, so I got to provide a lot of the behind-the-scenes decision-making around that. Then we loaded the bus, crossed back over the river, and went to Hoover. So we went from 2019 to 1947. And they were really excited on the bus, talking about all the different ideas they saw. And then we got on, and it immediately hit them the difference of the learning environment for our students. We went to Hoover. Julio walked around the outside, almost as if on cue. We saw one of the heating units for one of the portables completely iced over because it was broken. In another classroom, we looked over, and Jay is on the wall picking out some of the calcium deposits between the bricks. He goes, "Don't worry, it's not harmful if kids eat it." And unfortunately, that's just a reality of some of the situations our students. And they saw the playground equipment that was, angle iron welded together from 1947. And so we went from Hoover over to Garfield, so they got to see Garfield. And they were used to walking around these big spacious hallways with lots of natural light in these new schools, to Garfield where it's very narrow. And Principal Brownlow brought them out to a portable, and it was a music portable. And he goes, "I want to highlight here that I have a brand new first year music teacher. Very excited, so excited to do everything that he can with these students. But compare this music room, this portable where these students are now, with what we saw at the other schools. What we saw at the other schools were collapsible walls where the classroom turns into a stage that opens up to the gym. And they had curtains and light systems and sound systems and backgrounds and everything for these students to their performances." And Steve goes, "So not only consider the opportunity that our students aren't getting," he says, "but the retention and the attraction that we have for talent, for teaching talent in the district, is going to be greatly elevated by offering these state-of-the-art learning facilities." Because obviously, my staff love being here. They love the students. He says, "But I do know that we are losing opportunities to hire. So if they have to choose between my portable and that beautiful stage over there across the river," he said, "they're definitely going to have that. That's going to be hard to retain, attract them." And so I really appreciated Julio and Steve's tours and the questions and answers they gave. But it was a very quiet, even though it was a short bus drive back over from Garfield to here, it was quiet. Because they were talking about how they literally feel sorry for the students that they have. There's so much opportunity for them out there, and we haven't been able to afford that opportunity for them recently. So it was a good eye-opening experience for the CFAC, and so we're excited to parlay that into some more movement next month.
Rob, could you remind us who's on the CFAC? What is the group comprised of?
Yeah, we have two. We have 2 representatives. Let me pull it up really quickly. We have 2 representatives from the city of Yakima. We have Kevin Chase from ESD 105. We have a YEA rep, which is Jeff McFadden, and Jeff greatly increases the height of our program and the length of a beard too. We have a representative from the Yakima Association Realtors, the Teamster 760, Yakima Valley Community Foundation, the Yakima Principals Association. We have 5 students on the committee from Yakima School District, from Stanton, Yakima Online, Davis, Eisenhower, and 2 from Eisenhower. We have a Rotary representative, the Yakima County Development Association, the Central Washington Home Builders Association, OIC, Downtown Association in Yakima, and we have a 2 faith-based partners. And then we have, so those are the appointed voting members, appointed members, and then we have 15 at-large members who submitted requests to be members because they were community members, and 7 of those are from the east side, 8 of those are from the west side. And then as far as non-voting members, Dr. Green, myself, Mr. Cooper, our CFO, Jay Bockham, our Director of Maintenance and Operations, Christian Furterer, our Chief Communications Officer, Liz Gonzalez, my Administrative Assistant, and then Gary Wedge from Louisboro Wedge Architect Firm. He's one of our non-voting members. And he and Jay walked around the whole time just taking pictures of the ceilings and the girders and all the nerdy stuff that architects and those guys pay attention to.
Of the at-large, are there any school district parents on that?
Yes. Yeah, we have current parents, past parents, and future parents. Yeah. We have one who's due, I think, the first week of January. So she wants to see what her kid is going to come into.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're on a 6-year timeline. She's got an agenda already.
Any other questions about CFAC? All right, so I'll move to our next agenda item on the superintendent's update. It has to do with the calendar options. And of course, as you're aware, we did not, as a board, approve the contract with YEA this evening. But in that contract, there is a piece that addresses the calendar committee that had certainly been something that we gathered together every year to then bring a submission to the board. And that has been abolished through this new CBA. And instead, there are parameters for start of the school year and end of the school year. And so there are some constraints in there that have changed the way that we put together the calendar for the next 3 years. So what I've asked of Assistant Superintendent Jenny Rodriguez this evening is we have 3 calendars that are accessible for you to take a look at. And just to briefly talk through this is kind of a high level or quick view of what they are. And I would anticipate having a longer look. And certainly the idea is to get this in front of some other people before we approve this. But we're hoping to do so by mid to late January. So maybe the second meeting in January, we would be looking for approval. So we'd bring it to you on the 9th, I believe is the first date. So let me pass this over to Dr. Rodriguez and have her share the calendars.
Sure. Thank you, Superintendent Green. We have 3 options that we would anticipate bringing back to you in January for further discussion and then hopefully for approval. We're actually really, I think, excited and happy with the progress that we made in working with our Teachers Association around having perpetual calendar language. And this allows for us to really plan ahead around how we're going to serve our students to the maximum extent possible under current funding structures, and as well meets the needs of our association for teachers and to be able to plan ahead for their own families' needs. Some of the perpetual language in the calendar or section of the agreement includes that we would not begin earlier than August 15th, and that is for our professional development days that are funded through the state and the district, and that we would be finished with the school year prior to Juneteenth, which is June 19th. So you're going to see 3 options where we have adhered to that agreement. And there's also perpetual language around snow days, making sure that we have some of those built in, which I think is wise for all of us. We also have some language about winter break, when that would fall in the calendar based on the dates in December. We have language about spring break, as always, begins with the first Monday in April, so that everybody just is really clear up front. And I think this is good for our families as well, because they can also plan ahead for family activities that might need to occur. Option A is a little bit shorter of a year. You can see that the school year begins on August 22nd, following the 5 professional days, and then ends on June 13th. There are conference days built in, but we are reducing the number of conference days to make sure we're doing that as efficiently as possible to maximize instructional time. We've maintained the February intersession based on our data from last year. That was the most effective of our intersession options because it falls after the end of semester 1, and particularly for our high school students, it allows us to really focus in on what are just the components that they need to catch up on in order to retrieve and earn that credit and move into their second semester course. So that's the one we've seen a lot of success with. And we really want to make sure we maintain no matter which calendar option we go forward with. Option B is very similar, except that we've extended it to the maximum extent possible based on the perpetual calendar language in the YEA agreement. So again, we'd be starting the year on August 22nd, but in this case ending on Tuesday, June 18th. We've built in some additional break days throughout the year to again extend the length of that time. One of the things I like about this option is you'll see we've built in a week between the end of the year and the start of summer programming, which allows us to have, I think my mic is going out, but it allows us to have some professional development days, which is really helpful for us to ensure that we have time with our administrators and some of our teacher leaders prior to starting and launching into summer school so that we get those folks to those trainings. And then you can see that we would begin summer school really the 1st of July, and it runs almost the entire month of July. So for our students that are most in need of additional support and really an extended learning opportunity, they go to the end of the school year, they have a 1-week break, yay, and then they come back to us for 4 weeks of summer school, and then it is approximately 4 weeks before they return to school for the next fall. So I know this has been a long-term concern of the board around particularly summer learning loss, and really thinking about how do we ensure that we're not losing ground with our students. And so we think this is potentially a good option. Option C is the third one that we're currently looking at. And as in all things, right, as we do further revisions and further drafts, usually we continue to improve. The difference between B and C is the inclusion of some half-day releases midweek for professional development. We have really gone all in around our PLCs training this year. You're familiar with our 3 T&L levers. And if Dr. Green had given me time to make slides, you'd see it tonight, but he didn't. So we are going to really focus on our Monday release time around PLCs. For PLCs to function at their maximum capacity and have the maximum impact for students, our teacher teams need to meet every single week. We can't afford to take a week off because we need to do safety security training, because we need to do our PBIS committee meeting, because we need to have a staff meeting of some sort at the building level. So we really need to find some additional time within the contract day that does not require us then to pay our staff to stay beyond the day. And some of them can't because they have other commitments with their own children or coaching or other things. So we're really looking at how do we maximize really the contract bell to bell, if you will, with our adults in order to most impact our students. So those are built in at the end of each month to ensure that we're providing that ongoing training across all the areas that we really do need to provide ongoing training in for our staff in order to best serve our students. Option C is the same as option B in terms of the start and the end of the year and the maintenance of the February intersession week as well. Happy to answer questions. Also happy to answer them in January if you'd like to bring them then.
I do have a question. Well, I have several questions, but by my count, we don't have extended break for students and staff for 55-ish days maybe closer to 60 days. Because staff starts on August 15. Students start on August 22nd. And there is no extended break until Thanksgiving week. That's a long time. It concerns me that by going that long, for kids who either didn't take advantage of the extended summer learning opportunities, or students who are new to the district and didn't have access to those, and maybe came in behind. That's a long time for them to be behind without, I mean, if we could put even a few days in October, connect it to a weekend or something, so that, you know, there could be some time, one, for kids to catch up, two, for staff to kind of take a breath and get some needed self-help after that extended period of time for being in front of the classroom. And I appreciate the February intercession time, but I was hoping that we could see some October intercession time prior to or immediately following the first quarter break.
Yeah, I think the difference is with our heavy emphasis around PLCs is we should be addressing when we are seeing that students are behind immediately. We don't wait 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 9 weeks or the 12 weeks. We should be doing that on a week-to-week basis, and that's part of the rationale for needing to carve out some additional adult time over the course of the year. Those PLC meetings are really designed around 4 questions. What do we want students to learn? How will we know that they've learned it? What do we do when they didn't? And what do we do when they did? And that third question, what do we do when they didn't learn it? That's a conversation of that grade level team, course team, content team, week after week. So as they're doing those common formative assessments, exit tickets, it's not just something big like the Smarter Balanced Assessment. It's the little quiz that we agreed as a teaching team we're going to give on Friday. And we come back the next Monday and say, okay, little Trevor didn't quite make the bar. What are we going to do for him to catch him up now? I'm just going to use you as the example tonight. So what are we going to do? And so as a teacher team at the elementary level, as for example, a second grade team, we have the ability within the day, we have an intervention block as part of our day. And we as a teaching team can say, okay, we saw these 10 kids are really struggling with place value. Who did really well with their kids? Great. You're going to take that group of 10 from our teacher team and you're going to reteach it this next week. We're not going to wait a month or 2 months. We're going to do it the very next week. So that's really the power of PLC, is being able to catch kids immediately and address the need and not wait. Because when we wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and we don't fill that potentially that skill hole, like they're just getting further and further behind. So it's really about putting a system and a process in place that catches them immediately. I don't know if that helps address it, Board Member Rice.
Well, it helps me understand, and that I appreciate that. I'm going to have to study this a little bit more.
We'll change your mind by mid-January.
Or you'll change it for me,
Dr.
right?
Rodriguez will come back with that PowerPoint and make sure. Thank you for presenting. I appreciate that. Was just a first blush, as I mentioned. So we look forward to in January bringing that back to the full board and updating you on progress. A couple more items. This Thursday, there is a convening of the Yakima Nation regarding the way that we work as superintendents and boards to acknowledge our Native students. Of course, we've done significant work in our district here. Hats off to Henry Strom from the Grandview School District full Yakima native, our only Yakima native superintendent in the public school system of which I'm aware. But he has led the work with other superintendents and the Yakima Nation. So there will be a convening to talk about everything from their sovereignty to the time immemorial curriculum to land acknowledgements to preserving the language. There will be superintendents in attendance, obviously tribal leaders from their education board, and as well as the entire tribal council. It's open to many of the members. We'll also have representation from Heritage University, and it will be held at Heritage. And I'm just extending an invitation to any of you if you would like to attend this Thursday, 8:30 to 3 o'clock. I will be presenting with one of the professors out at Heritage, talking about the work that we've done specifically around land acknowledgement in the early afternoon. So that is a wonderful just opportunity on which to build. Of course, we know that we really have done a good job, I believe, in leading the work outside of the Yakima Nation with the public schools here in this area to acknowledge our neighbors to the south. So again, if any of you are interested, please reach out. Consider that this evening. It's this Thursday, again, 8:30 to 3. Be willing to drive and make arrangements that we could go together if one or two of you are interested. The 8th grade transition is around the corner. As you remember, we had some significant challenges last year in the balancing of the two high schools. So I would simply like to share, I see that we have Jake here this evening, and I wanted to share what Jake had sent out to the parents so that you're aware, and that we're getting this certainly broadcast. Parents of incoming 9th grade students, we are excited to begin the process of helping students transition to high school here in the Yakima School District. Your student has been sent a separate email with instructions to complete their choices for high school for the 2023-2024 school year through their Skyward Student Access. The survey opens December 12th and closes at midnight on December 16th. It's important to note that students may not get their first choice and that there's limited capacity in some of our high schools. Please make sure to speak with your student about the completion of their survey. Students will complete this survey by working with their teachers and/or counselors. Included in this email are YouTube links to the parent presentations that were held in Spanish and English, explaining the high school selection process for the 23-24 school year. And then it's attached, and the message goes out in Spanish as well. And we made a significant move last year to move. I'm looking over at Rob because I know that we allowed a large number. What was the number last year, if you can recall off the top of your head?
Well, it was we decreased the number of incoming freshmen to 525 into Davis, which then put a little over 700 freshmen at Ike this year.
So the majority of the balancing took place last year in a big chunk.
Yeah, and so this year.
Yeah, so this year it'll be more students will be able to have their option because of the moves that we made last year, but there still will be the same process that occurred last year, and we're hopeful that this continues to balance out the situation and allow us to better serve our students with all of the resources that we can and space that we need to make that happen. Any questions about transition? All right, and I think the last item, it's been a long one tonight, I apologize for that, but the last item is the SSAC update, of which President Walker mentioned. We had a gathering yesterday for about, I think it was 3.5 hours at the PDC. We had our lead fellow students and another group of around 30 plus individuals representing our high schools and did some significant work on understanding policy, learning what had happened with the equity policy and how that had come to be, learning about the student voice policy and the plans to move that forward, and to talk about projects that may interest the students in pursuing to help them make change in our district that better serves them. So the exciting thing about what we're doing is we're really taking the time to hear what the issues are from the students. So rather than take the adult perspective that we understand what the issues are or know what the issues are, we're asking what the issues are. And then we're working with students to solve the problems that they see in in the system and how we can better serve them. In attendance, we did have a professor from the University of Washington at Bothell, Dr. Tyson Marsh. He is returning this Thursday to see the work that is happening with the Yakima Nation. He does do significant, believe his dissertation was around student voice, so he's a significant advocate and for student voice. He was very impressed, and I'm sure at some point I would be able to get him to come here to the board and just share his perspective of what he's seeing. But it was quite impressive and certainly the only of its kind in the state of Washington. We know that equity policies are quite popular now, but nobody's talking about student voice and what that can mean in a policy and the way that that impacts our students. And again, I'm just excited about that and what it means for the board in acknowledging our students and listening to them and giving them a seat at the table, so to speak. That concludes my superintendent update for this evening. I could answer any questions for you on the SSAC or any other topic.
I know they're probably working on that student voice policy. When can do they have a date by which they plan to deliver it to the board?
Yeah, they have a rough outline of benchmark dates to hit. If we think back to the equity policy, it wasn't until June, I believe, that was approved. And similarly, they're looking to present this in multiple sites and make sure that they have lots of eyes on the student voice policy. So while I don't have a firm date, I can tell you that they do have this planned out over the course of the next 6+ months. And that could be pushed out. So they're taking their time to do it right, but I would expect that we would see something by June and that there would likely be conversation with individual board members before that time, because as you recall with the equity policy, the students met with each board member separately to make sure that any of the questions that you had could be answered and everything explained in detail. And I believe that was very helpful at that time. And so I believe we would encourage them to replicate that process. I should also note that I do meet with the lead fellows once a month, and that meeting usually takes place from 5:30 to 7:30 in the evening. So this is a very committed group, and I'm just amazed at the level of maturity, and it really speaks to I think sometimes as adults, we put barriers for students that aren't there, and I believe that is not happening in our district. Case in point, we had one individual at our Partners in Education meeting when they were presenting that was talking about the language, I believe, of the student voice policy, because again, they were the first ones to get their eyes on it. And it was interesting because this individual was making the comment about the language and, boy, this sounds very, my words, very intellectual, very kind of cerebral. This doesn't seem like it's very accessible to students. And we had to point out that, that maybe a senior would understand this, but likely not a sophomore or freshman. And the kids were presenting, and we just turned to them and said, well, first of all, who wrote this policy? Who put this policy together? And they said, well, we did as students. And what grade are you in? They said, we're sophomores. So, I mean, just kind of stopped everything right there because, we think that we know best, or we put these barriers that aren't there. And it really snapped the group kind of back into reality of, oh yeah, students can do so many things if we provide that opportunity. And again, I commend the work of the board, and I really look forward to, I believe that we'll be presenting this at some point at WASDA.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that was amazing. Do we have a copy of that rough draft? Or is that?
Oh no, that is confidential. You would have to. You could force me. You could force me to get. Yeah, you got a preview. But I think the idea, my understanding is that students want you to see it last, so that your perspective and your comments will carry such an impact that they don't want that at an early date, because then if they get more people to look at it, it's changing your intent from that beginning point. So there's a really good logic as to why they want to present it to you at the end. But do rest assured that your word carries weight, obviously, in the formation of any policy. You're the ones that have to approve it, so you need to be happy with it. Yeah. All right. I yield my time back to President Walker.
It's amazing. It's just amazing what some of the things that are happening in the district. It's really exciting. to see. Okay, we have comments from, oh no, we have monthly financial update from Jay Cooper.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, I know, Jacob Cooper. I've been told I am not used to having an interpreter, so I will try to measure my speech accordingly. So I will learn, and Superintendent Green made a little bit of a joke last night. I know that that I was paid by the word, so not common for a financial official. So, but I will be brief this evening as we go through a standard report that is provided to you each month. Next month, anticipate a few changes in the document. President Walker and I had discussed potentially some slides that we may do away with, and we'll give it a try and we'll see how you all like it. But in the interim, what I wanted to point you to is the executive summary. This is the Keep You Up at Night page. And most importantly, like last meeting, we would not expect a large drop in enrollment. So enrollment continues to be in line with projections. You will see in the cash flow graph that we have a $5 million, approximately $5 million less than our projection. That is because of the timing of a drawdown. We moved $5 million into capital projects. We will get that money back at this next apportionment cycle and continue to supplant those funds from our ESSER proceeds. So that is a timing issue. Your cash will be in line with projection following that recapture. It is just a timing of the reimbursement of the claims. So don't worry about your cash, and your enrollment is in line. So those very important things from your governance chair. Let's see. So again, when we talked about enrollment budget versus actual, I wish I could take credit for this cycle. As I said last time, I cannot. Dr. Jenny Rodriguez and John Steach, who was an outside consultant, put that projection together, and it has come in, and that is what you're looking for when you're a board of directors and you have built your budget based on projections, which is what we do every single year. Slow, even slower than that. Wow. Okay, here is the cash flow graph. Yep. I know. Here's the cash flow graph that I was talking about earlier. You'll see that the lower axis is approximately 10 million, which is not a zero. I think it's not a manipulation of the scale at all. It's just when you want to see the detail, I have made the scale appropriate for our cash amounts. And you'll approximately see that we are below by about $5 million. So again, there is the cash flow. The green is the projected amount for the fiscal year, and the blue is where we are currently at. And that will come into line with projection following January's apportionment and then our supplanting of ESSER funds for our capital projects transfer. So nothing unusual there. Budget to actual, they're in line with historical comparisons, so you're in good shape in that regard. General fund payroll trend is aligned with comparable years as well. MSOCs, which is materials, supplies, and operating costs. And these are some of the slides that we may do away with because you already have an overall expenditure trend, and it does break it down by payroll and MSOCs, which is not anything that's not payroll related. And we'll give you that a try next meeting to see if that will make the report a bit cleaner. Most importantly, of importance, I won't say most importantly, really cash and enrollment is the most important position, is the display of our ESSER. Those are predetermined ESSER categories by the board and the administration. You will see that we have a balance in our ESSER 3 of approximately $27 million and are making progress on spending that down. ESSER 3, though, the 20%, as you recall, so ESSER 1, ESSER 2 are completely expended. ESSER 3 has two components. The second of which we're looking at right now is the 20% learning recovery set aside, which Dr. Rodriguez, Teaching and Learning, and the educational leaders in the system are going to continue to use to slow down learning loss or decrease learning loss, and then also make one-time purchases that will benefit the system for years to come, hopefully in the form of curriculum and professional development, etc. So we are smartly spending one-time proceeds, which can be difficult. I had a question before the meeting from Director Rice about how much staff we still have charged to our ESSER proceeds. We're just a little over $1 million, and that is going down more and more by the month. So we are not running the district's operations on ESSER funds, which is important for the community and of course the board of directors to know. And then that appears to be the end. So any questions? Apologies for the lack of smooth delivery on that one, but we'll get better with time.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. And we did have a brief conversation about additional ways to streamline. As you recall, I worked with Becky Neeson on those reports before. So Jake and I discussed once how we can continue to streamline and improve reports so they make sense, but also so they don't eat up a lot of time. We're trying to be more efficient. So I believe we have I think we've covered everything. We don't have an additional request for comment from outside the system, or there's nobody here. Is there a need for executive session this evening?
There is not a need for executive session.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from the board? Okay, with that, we're adjourned.